Hello and welcome to Quiz Class. My name's Ellis and I'll be your host for this 100-question quiz all about the 1960s. Let's get started with question 1. Among the members of the Beatles, who was the lead singer? George Harrison, John Lennon or Paul McCartney? The answer is John Lennon. 2. Which of the following civil rights leaders gave the I Have a Dream speech in 1963? Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela or Rosa Parks? The answer is Martin Luther King Jr. 3. In 1962, what great artist created the iconic work Campbell's Soup Cans? Andy Warhol, Pablo Picasso or Vincent van Gogh? The answer is Andy Warhol. Question 4. Who was the host of the 1968 Summer Olympics? China, Japan or Mexico? The answer is Mexico. Question 5. Who became the first woman to receive the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1966? Nellie Sachs, Virginia Woolf or Gabriela Mistral? The answer is Nellie Sachs. Question 6. From 1969 through 1977, who was the first African American woman elected to the United States Congress? Shirley Chisholm, Barbara Jordan or Hillary Clinton? The answer is Shirley Chisholm. 7. Which iconic festival took place in upstate New York in 1969? Woodstock Festival, Monterey Pop Festival or Isle of Wight Festival? The answer is Woodstock Festival. 8. Which country was divided by constructing a physical wall in 1961? South Africa, Germany or China? The answer is Germany. 9. In 1960, what African country became independent from France? Congo, Nigeria or Madagascar? The answer is Madagascar. Question 10. In 1967, what country claimed the Eurovision Song Contest victory with the song Puppet on a String? United States, Sweden or United Kingdom? And the answer is United Kingdom. Question 11. In Memphis, Tennessee, which renowned American civil rights leader was assassinated in 1968? Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr. or Jesse Jackson? The answer is Martin Luther King Jr. 12. Who was the Rolling Stones' lead singer? Mick Jagger, Paul McCartney or Keith Richards? And the Rolling Stones' lead singer is Mick Jagger. 13. In 1964, which legendary American civil rights leader gave the speech by any means necessary? Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks or Malcolm X? And the answer is Malcolm X. 14. Which famous American television show debuted in 1966? Star Trek, Batman, or both of the above? The answer is both of the above. 15. With the debut of Dr. No in 1962, which classic British espionage film franchise began? James Bond, Mission Impossible, or The Pink Panther? The answer is James Bond. 16. In 1966, which famous American singer-songwriter released the album Blonde on Blonde? Bob Dylan, Janis Joplin, or Dolly Parton? The answer is Bob Dylan. Question 17. In 1968, which famous rock band released the White Album? Led Zeppelin, the Rolling Stones, or the Beatles? The answer is the Beatles. Question 18. In the 1960s, OPEC was founded. What does the acronym OPEC stand for? Is it Organisation of Petroleum Exporting Countries, Oil and Petroleum on Environmental Council, or Oil and Petroleum Exporting Council? The answer is Organisation of Petroleum Exporting Countries. 19. What was the outcome of the United States-backed operation, the Bay of Pigs? Huge success, unsuccessful, or failure at first, accidental success later? The answer is unsuccessful. Question 20. What was the name of the first African American student to enroll at the University of Mississippi? James Meredith, Meredith Black, or Dorothy Jackson? The answer is James Meredith. Hope you're keeping up so far. That was question 20. Here's 21. What is the name of the first weather satellite launched by the United States in the 60s? Apollo 1, Tyros 1, or Enterprise 1? The answer is Tyros 1. 22. Who was the first American in space a month after the Soviets achieved it? Yuri Gagarin, Alan Shepard, or Neil Armstrong? The answer is Alan Shepard. 23. Spider-Man debuted in the 60s. What was his true identity? Mark Wahlberg, Peter Parker, or Miles Morales? The answer is Peter Parker. No, it's not Mark Wahlberg. Question 24. Which 60s rock band was nicknamed the Fab Four? The Rolling Stones, the Beach Boys, or the Beatles? Well, they're all fab, but the actual Fab Four were the Beatles. 25. What technological advancement was invented during the 60s that made listening to music so much easier? Compact disc, audio cassette, or theremin? The answer is audio cassette. 26. What was the name of the first home videotape recorder released in the 1960s? Sony CV2000, Philips Home Recorder X, or Siemens XV1? The answer is Sony CV2000. 27. Coronation Street, the longest running television series, first aired in which year? 1960, 1965, or 1969? The answer is 1960. Question 28. What satellite enabled live transatlantic satellite television? Starlink, VSAT, or Telstar? Here's a hint, the satellite was effective by 1962. The answer is Telstar. 29. Which British TV channel went on air in 1964 and became the first to have colour by 1967? BBC One, BBC Two, or BBC Four? The answer is BBC Two. 30. Who was the founder of the first Walmart during the 1960s in Arkansas? Walter Martins, Sam Walton, or Walter Wallace? The answer is Sam Walton. Question 31. What advancement was made in America during the 60s in terms of inhabited areas? Mailing system, paperboy service, or zip codes? The answer is zip codes. 32. Which satellite from NASA took the first spacecraft to take images of a planet from deep space? Voyager 1, Mariner 4, or Enterprise 2? The answer is Mariner 4. Question 33. Who became the first African American to receive the Academy Award for Best Actor? Sidney Poitier, Chadwick Boseman, or Morgan Freeman? The answer is Sidney Poitier. 34. The computer coding language BASIC saw its introduction during the 60s. What does BASIC stand for? Beginner's All-Purpose Symbolic Instruction Code, Binary Applied Symbol Incorporated Code, or Binary and Symbol Integrated Code? The answer is Beginner's All-Purpose Symbolic Instruction Code. 35. What car replaced the Ford Anglia in 1968? Ford Escort, Ford Mondeo, or Ford Capri? And the answer is Ford Escort. 36. When was the first intercity train used? 1960, 1966, or 1969? And the answer is 1966. Question 37. From which country did Botswana and Lesotho gain independence in the 60s? France, Italy, or England? The answer is England. 38. In 1968, the first public demonstration of what took place? Computer technology such as email, Neil Armstrong landed on the moon, or a royal wedding in the United Kingdom? The answer is computer technology such as email. 39. What would the 1960s be described as? A time of revolution and change, a time of suppression and silence, or a time of many wars? The answer is a time of revolution and change. 40. Who did John F. Kennedy defeat to become President of the United States? Richard Nixon, Lyndon B. Johnson, or Harry S. Truman? The answer is Richard Nixon. 41. In 1960, Hurricane Donna terrorized the east of the United States. For how long did Donna roam in the Atlantic? 36 hours, 9 days, or 17 days? The answer is 17 days. 42. What was the USS Enterprise, launched in 1960, the first of? A nuclear-powered spacecraft, a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, or a nuclear-powered submarine? The answer is a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. 43. What milestone in copyright registrations was met at the US Copyright Office in 1960? First registration, 100,000th registration, or 10 millionth registration? The answer is 10 millionth registration. 44. What was America's biggest company in 1960? General Motors, US Steel, or General Electric? The answer is General Motors. 45. The starting salary for a police officer was $4,400 in 1960. What was the starting salary for a teacher? $2,800, $5,135, or $9,400? The answer is $5,135. 46. What percentage of the US labour force was made up of farmers by 1960? 1.2%, 8.3%, or 20%? The answer is 8.3%. Question 47. What was a moniker for the 60s? The swinging 60s, the psychedelic 60s, or the sexy 60s? The answer is the swinging 60s. 48. You can't separate peace from freedom because no one can be at peace unless he has freedom, is a famous quote by whom? John F. Kennedy, Nelson Mandela, or Malcolm X? The answer is Malcolm X. 49. At least 69 South Africans were murdered and 180 more injured on March 21st, 1960 in Sharpeville. Why? Protests against apartheid, a bank robbery that went wrong, losing all the hostages, or police were ordered to execute anyone in sight? The answer is protests against apartheid. 50. Which iconic world leader and figure of peace was sentenced to life in prison on June 12, 1964 on 4 counts of government sabotage? Nelson Mandela, Jose Maria Vargas, or Richard Nixon? The answer is Nelson Mandela. We are halfway through this quiz. There's a bonus question hint for you. Remember this hint for the bonus question. Thurgood Marshall was appointed to the Supreme Court in 1967. That bonus question is coming at the end of the quiz. 51. What was the outcome of the Cultural Revolution in China, launched in 1966 by Chinese leader Mao Zedong? Absolute havoc and chaos, great economic success, or great cultural advancements? The answer is absolute havoc and chaos. 52. What rank would Elvis Presley go on to reach in the military before being fully discharged? Corporal, Sergeant, or Command Sergeant Major? The answer is Sergeant. 53. What was the moniker for the craze over the Beatles during the 60s? Beatle Believers, Beatle Blood, or Beatlemania? The answer is Beatlemania. Question 54. Other than Marilyn Monroe, which other female entertainer passed away in the early 1960s? Audrey Hepburn, Janis Joplin, or Patsy Cline? The answer is Patsy Cline. 55. How many people attended the Woodstock Festival in Bethel, New York in 1969? 40,000, 400,000, or 4 million? The answer is 400,000. 56. How much was a ticket to attend Woodstock? Free, 50 cents, or $2? The answer is free. Question 57. Which drug was popularised in the 60s, designated by the FDA as an experimental drug by 1962? MDMA, LSD, or cannabis? The answer is LSD. 58. Where did the first Super Bowl take place on January 15th, 1967? Los Angeles, California, or New York? The answer is Los Angeles. 59. How old was Muhammad Ali when he appeared on the world stage for upsetting Sonny Liston? 18, 22, or 32? The answer is 22. Question 60. What video game released in 1962 is regarded as the first interactive video game? Snake, Space War, or Mario Bros? The answer is Space War. 61. The first push-button phones were introduced in 1963 by what telecommunications company? Verizon, Charter Communications, or AT&T? The answer is AT&T. 62. What was the early iteration of the internet called? Intranet, Ethernet, or ARPANET? And the answer is ARPANET. 63. Who debuted as the instant colour film in 1963? Polaroid, Philips, or Sony? The answer is Polaroid. 64. In what comic did Spider-Man make his debut in 1962? The Amazing Spider-Man, Marvel Avengers, or Amazing Fantasy? Amazing Fantasy is the answer. 65. How long did the Batman television series that debuted in 1966 last? 3 seasons, 12 seasons, or 28 seasons? The answer is 3 seasons. 66. What show were Ed McMahon and Johnny Carson first to host, starting in 1962? Deal or No Deal, The Today Show, or The Tonight Show? The answer is The Tonight Show. 67. Who was Walter Cronkite? A prominent musician, anchor of the first nightly televised news programme, or the first man to act as a woman in a play? Hint, he debuted in 1963. The answer is the anchor of the first nightly televised news programme. 68. What was the cost for a Ford Mustang in the mid-60s? $2,400, $3,800, or $4,200? The answer is $2,400. 69. What debuted in 1963 with significance to the Boeing 727? Air travel becomes commercialised, the first commercial plane crash causing multiple deaths, or the first luxury private jet is debuted by Boeing? The answer is air travel becomes commercialised. 70. What was the significance to the Cuban crisis? The United States discovered Soviet nuclear weapons on Cuba, the Soviets threatened the United States to leave Cuba or face a nuclear attack, or Cuba got a nuclear threat from the Soviets? The answer is the United States discovered Soviet nuclear weapons on Cuba. 71. Who assassinated Lee Harvey Oswald, the man that assassinated John F. Kennedy? Ted Kennedy, Jacqueline Lee Onassis, or Jack Ruby? The answer is Jack Ruby. 72. What is the 7th of March 1965, the day state troopers brutally broke up a group of protesters, also known as Blue Monday, Black Friday, or Bloody Sunday? The answer is Bloody Sunday. 73. Who was Charles Manson? A musician prominent in heavy metal, an infamous cult leader, or Marilyn Monroe's first husband? The answer is an infamous cult leader. 74. Birth control was introduced in the 60s. For what reason? Female empowerment, population control, or doctors listening to the problems females are facing? The answer is population control. 75. What was the England and Wales population according to the 1961 census? 4 million, 14 million, or 46 million? The answer is 46 million. Question 76. How many Nobel laureates did former United States President John F. Kennedy invite to the White House for dinner? 13, 49, or 102? The answer is 49. Question 77. Who won Man of the Year in 1969? Bill Cosby, Muhammad Ali, or Nelson Mandela? The answer is Bill Cosby. Question 78. What did Soviet authorities use to extinguish the gas well in 1966 after 3 years of consistent burning? Water at the intense pressure of 6,700 kPa, an atomic bomb, or 10,000 tons of sand? And the answer is an atomic bomb. 79. How did Canada honour John F. Kennedy in 1964? Naming their flag after him, building a statue in one of its most populated cities, or naming the tallest unclimbed mountain in North America after him? The answer is that, naming the tallest unclimbed mountain in North America after him. 80. During the 1960s, what happened to many black civil rights protesters in Detroit due to their hostile and aggressive nature? They were assassinated, they were imprisoned, or they were diagnosed with schizophrenia. The answer is they were diagnosed with schizophrenia. 81. Who became the first African American to win a NASCAR race in 1963? Will Smith, Wendell Scott, or Franklin Brown? The answer is Wendell Scott. 82. John F. Kennedy's opponents tried to use what illness against him during his campaign? AIDS, cancer, or Addison's disease? The answer is Addison's disease. 83. How did Milton Olive III disarm a live grenade? Using his vast knowledge of grenades, picking it up and throwing it in water, or he smothered it by sacrificing his life? The answer is he smothered it by sacrificing his life. 84. Who tried to abduct the British Prime Minister Alec Douglas home in 1964? 2 students, 3 ladies of the night, or Lyndon B. Johnson and the Secret Service? The answer is 2 students. Question 85. What was the cause Daniela Liverani's constant nosebleeds? she believed was due to a motorbike crash, damage to the brain, the bone behind her nose broke, or a 3-inch leech. The answer is a 3-inch leech. 86. How did Van Morrison respond when he still owed his record company 31 record songs in 1967? Y'all can have 31 rubbish songs or me out of here. He recorded 31 rubbish songs like Ringworm, or he faked his own death. And the answer is he recorded 31 rubbish songs like Ringworm. 87. In 1961, during the nuclear testing conducted by the Soviets, a little girl wrote a letter to John F. Kennedy wanting to know if Santa is fine. What was her name? Marianne Thorpe, Kathy Whitehorn, or Michelle Roshan? The answer is Michelle Roshan. 88. The French president demanded all American military personnel leave France in 1966. Who was he? Charles de Gaulle, Jacques Chirac, or Alan Poe? The answer is Charles de Gaulle. Question 89. What happened a year after Iwa Klobukowska, 1964 Olympic champion, failed the gender test? She admitted to being transgendered, she gave birth, or she vanished? The answer is she gave birth. 90. What did the inventor of the Slinky, Richard James, do in 1960? Left his wife and children to join a cult, he started a church, or he invented the hula hoop? The answer is he left his wife and children to join a cult. 91. What was the occupation of Wolfgang Engels, the man that stole and drove a tank through Berlin Wall? Librarian, cleaner, or soldier? The answer is soldier. Question 92. What happened to American journalist Mike Wallace's oldest son in 1962 while exploring Greece? He got murdered, he disappeared, or he fulfilled an ancient prophecy? The answer is he disappeared. 93. What was the outcome of Billy Joel's stunt to pretend being Jimi Hendrix's roadie in 1968? He was convincing, he was caught and thrown out, or he was caught but invited backstage? The answer is he was convincing. 94. What album did Jim Sullivan release in 1969? UFO, Alien, or Out of This World? And the answer is UFO. Question 95. What did Czechoslovakians do to confuse Warsaw Pact soldiers during the 1968 invasion? Remove and paint over road signs, make use of smoke bombs, or painted the enemy's tanks the same colour as theirs? The answer is remove and paint over road signs. 96. Who was the intruder that caused the Minnesota Air Base's sabotage alarm to go off, launching a nuclear-armed aircraft and almost starting World War III? The Soviets, Osama bin Laden, or a bear? The answer is a bear. 97. Paul McCartney wrote a song under a different name to see if he could produce a hit without his popularity. It was recorded by Peter and Gordon. What were the results? It reached number 1 on the charts, it reached number 14 on the charts, or it was considered a flop but became popular in 2002. The answer is it reached number 14 on the charts. Question 98. The student with the worst reaction to a Harvard study in the 60s, sponsored by the CIA, Ted Kaczynski, who is he better known as? The Silent Lamb, the Unabomber, or the Condor? The answer is the Unabomber, or the Unabomber. 99. What was the name of the New York-based anarchists that disrupted multiple cultural events by giving out invitations to fake art events offering free drinks? Art Mask, Cancel Cult, or Black Mask? The answer is Black Mask. And here is question 100. How did the 57 people escape to the west of the Berlin Wall from East Berlin in 1964? College students dug a tunnel using garden spades, a soldier destroyed a part of the wall using a stolen tank, or a ladder was used from an old lady's backyard? The answer is college students dug a tunnel using garden spades. Here's that bonus question. Who was Thurgood Marshall? Let us know the answer in the comments. And while you're there, let us know how many points you scored out of 100. Thanks for playing this quiz, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified on all of our upcoming videos. In the meantime though, try these quizzes on for size. There are loads of them out there for you to get involved with. My name's Ellis and I've been your host. Thanks again for playing, and we'll see you next time at Quiz Class.